So I think we're live now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this live interview that I'm doing with my new good friend, Dave Simon, here on Facebook. We're going to be talking about success and marketing online mostly, but maybe in person too. It depends where Dave wants to take it. But obviously, we are in the middle of a pandemic. I think everybody here knows that. Which
I'm ready. I'm prepared.
Yeah, I'm glad we don't need the masks right now. That's one advantage of Zoom.
Yes.
So anyway, we're in the middle of this crazy time, and that is making it very challenging for many music educators, music performers, besides everybody else on the planet. So Dave is actually, a specialist here in marketing, and I found him on Facebook and got excited about what he's offering. Dave, just as a brief intro, Dave founded and operated Dave Simon's Rock School from 2003 to 2019. And he realized early on that ensemble programming not only meant greater profit margins for his business, but also made for an attractive offering for the kids. And so he has taken that into his business. He's licensed his band programs, Kidzrock, Piano Jam, and Junior Rockerz, allowing studios around the world to see significant gains in not just their profits, but also in student retention. And I'm really interested in knowing more about how you are retaining students. I'm sure everybody here is going to be interested in that. And Dave also has a podcast called Music Lessons and Marketing that discusses marketing strategies and tactics for music studio owners. And actually, I'm excited because I'm going to be talking on his podcast very soon.
Yes.
So I would love it if everybody here would participate and share your questions in the comments here on Facebook. If you're watching the replay, please feel free to post your questions and your comments after the fact, because I always go in and check afterwards, and we'll be happy to respond after the fact, and I'm sure Dave will also. And if you've got questions, put them in the comments. We will probably save them for towards the end, but I don't know. We're sort of doing this on the fly, just kind of informally. So we'll see how things go as we go along. So you might want to get out some pen and paper, take some notes. I have no idea what Dave is going to share with us, but I have a feeling it's going to be important and very useful. So you might want to jot down some of his advice. So just listen up and please give Dave your full attention. And welcome, Dave. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jennifer. Do you talked about student retention, and I could certainly dig into that, or do you want me to start off kind of talking about marketing during the COVID?
I want to hear about all of it, but first, I think it might be really nice for people to know a little more about you. Like, where do you live and what are your interests? Like, what excites you today in your business and life?
Well, so I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and as Jennifer said, I owned a music school there. And in 2019, the manager of my studio in August said to me, Dave, look, I'm going to be getting married in a few months. And as a married man with 3 kids, I said, uh-oh, this is a problem, because his salary is not going to allow him to get to that next stage in his life. And I said, hey, you want to buy my school? You're going to need some more money.
Wow.
And we had flirted a little bit over the years about that. And over the course of 6 months of negotiations, he wound up buying my school, which allowed me to go all in with my licensing programs. You mentioned Kidzrock, Junior Rockerz, and Piano Jam, which is really all about allowing music studios to stay focused on what they're doing, but bring in these group programs that really are about allowing kids to start off in groups. And one of the things that I find so unusual about music education is if you look at all the artistic disciplines out there, we're the only ones that start out with one-on-one.
Hmm.
If you're going to do
Yeah,
gymnastics or dance, you're
sure.
always in some group setting. And the ambitious kid or the child who's really connecting with the art form will then move into a one-on-one private coaching situation. But I think historically music, and probably it just comes from, you know, the fact that at a certain point in time, it just made logistically more sense to do one-on-one teaching. But
Mhm.
now in, you know, this modern era, especially with technology, I realized, oh, you can teach kids in a group and they can perform as an ensemble. I mean, I'm sure you know as yourself as a violinist, playing solo violin is pretty cool, but playing in an orchestra that's creating this massive sound, there's just nothing like it. And
It's a
so,
great experience. And actually, it's so interesting what you're talking about, the group for kids.
yeah,
I had not really thought about it that way before, in part because when I was a kid, when I was 4, I started my studies with the Suzuki method,
sure.
which is not like the rest of the musical world where we actually did have group classes at the same time. And I remember being a kid and just loving that group component. And I saw the same thing in my son, that without that group component, it would have been really hard for him to stick with it. And now he's in college becoming a professional. So I think what you discovered in your corner of the musical world is really genius, that you need kids to be doing things with other kids.
Well, and it creates this positive peer pressure when you're
Right.
doing something in with a group of people and the kid next to you is doing something that you really admire and wish you could do it. The only way to get there is practice.
Mhm.
And when we as adults, you know, as instructors and parents are telling our children that they need to practice more, it's kind of like that the teacher in the Peanuts cartoons. You know, it's just noise to them. Like
Right.
that's all they hear. Womp, womp, womp. But when they can look at a contemporary, you know, like if you're, I don't know, a young girl in hip hop class and this girl next to you is doing some moves that you can't do, you're probably going to start practicing at home a little bit more.
Hmm.
Do that. And the same in music. If you can look to your peer and say, oh, I really want to play like her, that's going to motivate you in a way that your parents or your teacher can't motivate you.
You're totally right. So I think it's really neat that you've learned, or you've figured out on your own how to bring that group experience online. Can you tell us a little more about how you do that, like
Yeah.
logistically and practically?
So it's a little smoke and mirrors, but it works. And the way to do an ensemble online effectively is to have a backing track that everyone's going to play along with. So as we all know in Zoom, you can share your audio with
Mhm.
your students. So when I'm doing an ensemble online, I'm teaching them individually, all their, you know, everyone's unmuted so they can hear each other. And I like, as an instructor in general, I want to be able to get the ensemble up and playing in time as quickly as possible. So maybe that means I'm only going to teach them a measure of music. And
Mm.
once you've got 4 beats, you can create time. So I might say to, you know, a group of kids, okay, let's just all quickly learn this A minor chord. Here's the rhythm. I'm going to quickly go through each kid. I'm not going to give them in-depth instruction. I'm just going to, hey, just Jennifer, really quick, can you just play that A chord and okay, and play the rhythm? Great, you got it. I go through each kid. I then mute everybody and I play the backing track. So I can't hear them at that
I
point.
see.
I can't
Uh-huh.
hear them. All they can hear is themselves and the backing track. And then throughout the class, I'll say, hey, Jennifer, really quick, can you just play for me what you were just playing when you were playing along with the YouTube video? Okay, great. And after a course, so what's happening as an instructor is I'm kind of flying blind through half of it. I can individually check with each kid to see what they're doing, but when it's time to play along with the music, I can't hear them. But then at the end of, let's say, I don't know, a 3 or 6 week period where I feel like the kids pretty much have it, the parents come into the room and they pull out their phones and they film the kid playing to the backing track, but the kid's wearing, earbuds or headphones. So all that mom's capturing on her phone is her child playing,
Mhm.
and they send it in to me, and I send it off to a video editor, and I say, just sync up each kid with this backing track.
That's brilliant.
And look, and if you're doing it with piano, and I had this with actually a violin. I did did this. I had a violin kit in there, and I was trying to get her to tune her violin over the internet, and it was tough.
Hard.
And she popped her string.
Oh no.
And so I'm like, okay, you're just play whatever note you want when you're gonna go to that string. Use your ear and find a note that sounds good. And so she did, but her violin was out of tune. And so I had to bring her down in the mix, and I
Right.
played her part on a keyboard with a violin patch.
So
Okay,
you have
so
to be really responsive and ready for anything when you're
right,
doing this.
right, and especially, well, all these kids, pianos at home are out of tune. Like mom and dad haven't tuned that piano since grandma gave it to them, 20 years ago. Um,
Right.
but it allows the ensemble to stay together. And I think the key to to go back to this original topic, the key to making online lessons really work is something has to happen in the online lesson that doesn't happen in the in-person. And it's video. Video allows you, video production. There's a guy, Nate Trebecca, he runs a studio out of Seattle. And when he did his virtual recital, like everyone does these virtual recitals, right? And it's the kid playing,
Mhm.
right? Just like everybody else. But he put in the effort to then, after the kids turned in their recital, is he would add orchestration behind the kids on a keyboard.
Mm.
And then you had a video designer add lights and effects. So the kid, from the kid's perspective, they just sent in a video of them, playing their ukulele. And but then when it was time for the recital, it was a ukulele with all these instruments behind them and these cool effects and lights.
Mhm.
And so it really elevated the whole experience. And I think
Mm.
creativity right now is key
Yeah.
to getting through this time.
And what I hear you say is that, we're on a completely different medium. So that requires a lot of thinking outside of the box and also finding the advantages that are inherent in the medium that are just not there either in person. I mean, obviously there are advantages to being in person. There's no doubting that.
Right.
But it does frustrate me sometimes when I'm reading like what people are talking about on the internet and how frustrated music educators are because they have to be online now. And I think and sure, I totally understand that frustration. And yet, I think if we can stay curious about, okay, we can't do that now. Let's not bemoan the fact anymore. I mean, it doesn't do us any good. Let's figure out how we can use this new medium in new ways that could actually be maybe even better. And then when, we can always go back and do in person and never do online teaching again. I won't because I actually love it. But to have this additional tool in our toolbox, people can, I have a suspicion that many music educators who embrace this now are going to discover great things about it that they will actually want to include to kind of have a hybrid approach too.
Right. Oh, for sure. And I think it was also just so confusing for us when COVID first hit in March. I think there was this belief in our culture that by summer, things were going to kind of start getting better. So that put all of us in this mindset of, hey, this is just temporary.
Right.
Let's I don't know why, but I always use analogies regarding ships and boats when it comes to running a business. And I
Mhm.
kind of felt like, okay, let's just jump in our little lifeboats. We all took a big hole. We all got hit by a torpedo in March. The ship is still there. Let's just jump in the lifeboat. And then at a certain point, I think people kind of got in this mindset of, no, we're going to be in this lifeboat for a long time.
Right.
We're not getting back into that ship
Yeah.
for a long time. And it's, can we, and you certainly alluded to this, can we learn a lesson now that we can apply when we get back in, once we patch up our boats and we can get back in? Is there some lesson that we can apply to our business? And who knows, maybe the lesson is just simply that, yes, we can endure whatever life throws our ways, and that our businesses can stay afloat, and that we can mentally
Right.
keep it together.
I love that idea. That's
Right.
good. So, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see that are facing music educators now that they're stuck in the lifeboat? And do you have any like specific things that you've learned that you're doing differently now that maybe could be useful for people to pick up on?
Well, the biggest thing, and I wouldn't apply this to all music, or I think all small business, or a lot of small business owners in general, have kind of got into this pity party of feeling sorry for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we all needed to do that. We all needed to like cry for a day.
Nothing wrong with feelings.
Right. You gotta like, like life punched you in the gut on like March 13th or March 15th or whenever that reality came to you. And it hurt, and it hurt your business, your ability to pay your bills, your ability to pay payroll. It's all very emotional and all very painful. But it's like, how can we, true leaders, this is true leaders and great leaders thrive in that moment and go, okay, emotions are here. I'm going to set those to the side. Now I'm going to be a leader, and your customers are looking to you at that point, and they're taking cues from you. And if you have staff, they're taking cues from you too. And your ability to go, okay, here's what I'm going to do. We're going online here, and you don't have to fake your enthusiasm for it. And I think some people feel like, hey, this is great, online lessons, this is great. And it's like, um, I do enjoy teaching online because I teach differently online, and I do enjoy it. But I think it's people kind of, I think a lot of people wanted to stay stuck in that feeling sorry for themselves point. And the only one that was able to save you is yourself and your creativity and your ability to lead. And I think the key to leadership is just simply going, people, here's the plan. Having a plan, just getting that plan, go, here's the plan, I'm going to execute it, and here's how we can, here's our indicators of success. We're going to know that we're being successful. We're going to shift our whole school online, and these are the results we're looking for. Yes, we're going to lose a lot of students, and that's okay. That's okay. We're going to stay connected to those students. We're going to be, every few months, I'm going to send them emails or postcards just to check in with them, because at some point we're going to patch up that hole in the boat, and we're going to be able to get back on. And I think the key right now is for music studio owners is not to get short-sighted and to go, yes, hope it, we will return back to normal, some semblance of normal. And all those students that you lost, you should be focused on maintaining those relationships with them, whether it's a phone call or a postcard or just, hey, just thinking of you note, just little things like that.
That's so important. I just want to highlight that because I just love two things that you're saying. I mean, all of it, but the reminder that a music teacher is a leader. I'm
Right.
not so sure music educators always think that way, because it's just a model that's been passed down forever that you grew up in as a student with a teacher, and then ultimately you're the teacher. And I think it's obvious when you're leading an individual, but I think a lot of us tend to forget that we are leading a community with, and actually I think that's one of the advantages of online learning. It's so easy to have community events too, and now with social distancing and lockdowns, and I think people are really uh, needing that kind of community connection. So to your point of staying connected with people, like the cards and the reaching out to them is so important. And I think that's a lesson that we're learning now even more, but something that we can be doing even when we're back in the big boat, so to speak.
Well, and that's where when you're in a state of panic, it's easy to go, okay, we just lost 20 customers.
Mhm.
Forget about them. They're gone. No, they're not.
Right.
You know,
Stay in touch.
right? A leader goes, okay, they're gone for now, but we need to show them that they're not just customers to us. They mean something more to us. These
Mm.
are relationships that we value. And a story that I like sharing, my youngest daughter, she's autistic, and she's a part of these two different, there are these two organizations here in Cleveland that she's involved with. And to this day, almost every week, they drop off a gift for her.
Oh, wow.
Even though, now the gift is like stickers, things that they know she likes.
Right.
Even though we're unable to use their services right now, um, but because they're dropping off those little stickers, we don't forget to donate to them every month.
Right.
We're like, oh, right, you're there and you care about us,
Yeah.
and we're going to care about you. Now, you certainly aren't, your students that have dropped out, you're not going to expect them to give you money while they're not in your studio, but just by simply going, we care about you, we're thinking about you, we're worried about you, we hope everyone's safe. um, those types of messages really resonate with people. And even if they don't come back to your studio, they're still a referral source.
That's right.
And maybe, maybe you had some students that were kind of teetering on the edge of quitting anyway. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, just, music just wasn't their thing, but they really liked you. And they were just kind of, well, let's just stick it out for the semester. COVID hit and they go, you know what? Okay, we're done with music
That's a
lessons.
good
But
point.
right, and there's always a certain percentage of your students that fall into that category. You want it to be a small percentage,
Right.
but there's people, you always have a certain amount of students that haven't bought into the idea yet that music is for them and that
Hmm.
they want to be a musician. So that's fine. That's a part of what our business is about. But those people are still a source of referral. If mom can say, yeah, my daughter didn't really like this, music's not her thing. She's really more into the theater. But man, that Jennifer, she was great the way, like if yeah, I definitely recommend her.
Hmm.
And
Right. And people talk, and networking is really important. That's a really good point for people to remember. There's actually a question here
yeah.
from Anita Rusko that is related to this. So I'm just going to read it from her comment here. She says, in times of COVID, how do we market ourselves, especially at a time where music lessons are seen to be a luxury at this current time? And then actually she had another, and then she has another question that we can look at later. But do you have any thoughts on the students and parents, families that think of it as a luxury? What can they do? What
Well,
can we do?
look,
What can
music lessons are a luxury at any point. You have to have, now there's, I assume in these referring to the financial pain that people are going through,
I
maybe,
suspect
you
that's a big
know,
part of it. Yeah.
but I think it all begins with, well, why do people send, pre-COVID, why did people send their students to you?
Mhm.
People don't sign their kids up. Parents don't sign their kids up for music lessons because they're interested in music lessons. They really could care less about it. What they care about is what music lessons is going to do for their kid. They're
Mm.
caught up in, hey, I want my child to be well-rounded. I want them to explore different facets of their personality. And I've read that music engages the brain in its own unique way. Okay, we'll try music out. When COVID hit, all of a sudden your customers' needs change. And through marketing, instead of talking about a well-rounded child, the message could change to isolation
Huh.
and how, like, look, your kids are at home, they're feeling isolated. I know it's hard for us adults to understand what our kids are going through, but remember when you were in 7th grade and how important your friends were and how important it was, how meaningful it was for you to see them every day. That's been taken away from your child. And um, the best that we can do as a parents is to come up with opportunities for our kids to connect. And music lessons is an opportunity for your child to have an experience outside of online school where they can partner with a mentor and have a meaningful relationship, to give your child something to look forward to. It's no longer about being a well-rounded child. It's, the messaging has to change.
About being healthy.
Right.
Not,
Mental health and
that's
emotional health.
right. Yeah. And I was thinking as you're talking, what you were talking about earlier in our conversation about providing a group experience. I was thinking about how many parents will send their kids to sports programs to have that kind of interaction with other kids and to know what it's like to be on a team. And I think that's actually an angle that music educators could use too, if they have group classes and think of it as a team sport. It's a way for them to play together, and especially if the teacher is creative and thinking outside of the box, there can be even partnering opportunities and group activities to break people into different teams, to go along with the sports. And I know a lot of people are missing their sports these days too, for
Well,
kids.
and I think you reminded me of this. I was teaching a group piano class, and in one of the classes, it was the first class. I said, "Hey, I want everyone to go around and, okay, Jennifer, your name starts with the letter J. So what animal do you like that starts with the letter J?" And it was like a little game, and every kid, now
They
you're
get
thinking about
excited,
it,
right?
right? Right. And so the next class, one of the girls said, "Hey, can we do more things like we did last time?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, where we had to come up with animals with our name." And I'm like, "But wait a minute, I'm here to teach you about music. But clearly what you're telling me is that you're desiring that type of connection, that type of playfulness that you're
Yeah.
maybe not getting in school, maybe because your teachers are under so much pressure to
Right.
get, to do online learning." And really what she was telling me is that she just wanted that type of playfulness.
Yeah. And also to be heard
Right.
and to show who she is and what she's interested in and make connections that way. That's
Right.
really sweet. That's a really insightful, you know, thing that we can all use in our
But then
teaching.
there's pressure on us as an educator to go, "Oh, but no, but I've got to teach you. Your parents are paying money for me to teach you how to play the piano. What do I do with this now? Like,
There's
is
that
mom going to
too.
be okay with the fact that I'm going to spend 15 minutes now playing?"
Right.
And
Right.
I think the key is to kind of give your, customers a heads up and go, "Look, I think it's really important, your child, these are things that they're struggling with. They desire connection. We're going to spend 10 minutes in our lesson um, playing games, or we're going to, like, where
Hmm.
you map it out for them and you say, I'm doing this with purpose. This
Right.
is, I'm not just jib jabbing, but I'm doing this so your kids can, there are certain needs that your child is not getting, and I'm going to help them get some of that in the music lesson as well."
And they will play better and learn better when they're having fun too.
Right.
Oh,
And,
that's
and look, really, us parents, when our kids go to that 30-minute online lesson, it's just take the kid. All
right.
right.
Give us a break.
I need a break. Do whatever you got to do.
Right.
Keep my kid engaged. I just don't want my kid calling me for help
Mhm.
on how to, like, make this thing work on Zoom. They just, parents need that break. And all of my group classes are an hour long specifically, so parents could get that that,
Mhm.
that kind of break.
That's so true. My kids are in college now, so I don't have that experience anymore, but I remember it very well.
Yes. Well, you got them out of the house just in time.
That's right. And now I meet with one of them every week to give him a violin Alexander technique session at his request, which is really nice.
That's great.
So I'm thinking I have another thing I want to talk to you about, ask you. I think a lot of music educators, especially the people who kind of thought, all right, I'll just wait it out until the summer. And now obviously things are just as bad or worse than they were in the beginning. So can you speak to the people who really haven't yet learned how to get up and running online, and especially the people who really need to find more students because they need to be increasing their reach and their income? What are some tips for them to get started and how to manage being online if they're not used to that and they haven't had to do any marketing ever because maybe they had an in-person studio and they just word of mouth with friends and colleagues, and now it's a whole new world where they need to find new students. How can they start thinking about that?
Well, I think when it comes to finding new students, I've learned, first of all, it helps that if you have at least a few,
Mhm.
even if it's 5. Your next students, or so many people look outward to find new students. They go to Facebook, they go to social media, which are all great places to do that. But quite often, your next students they're right in front of you. They are friends of your current students. And if you've got, first of all, by simply telling your students, or by telling the parents, by saying to them, one of the ways that I can grow my business is through referrals. And if you know of anybody, and even start painting pictures for them, like, maybe there's someone at your church, or there's somebody where you start outlining for them the different areas of their life. Maybe there's a neighbor. Not now you're getting their brains working,
That's a,
and to say that could benefit from music. Not if you say, hey, I need to grow my business, can you refer anyone to me? Well,
Mhm.
what's in it for them? There's a neighbor.
Sorry, I'm
That's
trying to
okay.
listen.
Now you're getting their brain working. And to say, was that on your phone?
Yeah, sorry about that. Just a moment.
I feel like my past has come back to haunt me. I'm literally hearing it seconds later. You look at that. My wife is texting me.
My
Let's see what kind
apologies.
of.
I have noticed that there are some comments, and so I was trying to check them out on my phone. And as soon
Well,
as I
I
did
have to
that,
show you this. My wife keeps texting me animals that she wants us to adopt.
oh boy.
Trying to convince me that somehow our dog is depressed and needs a friend.
Oh, have fun with that.
Right. It's been rough.
I apologize for the interruption. I'm going to find a different way to look up the comments because I want to see if there are questions for you.
I can
But
look here. Let's see if I
oh,
can.
can you see them?
Let's see if I can see in your
Ah,
group.
I see them. I have them here. Okay, Adisha. Hey, Adisha. Nice that you're here. Adisha says, we're paid to teach both to the test, but more importantly, to enjoy and understand the value of music. Absolutely. And he likes your suggestion about keeping in touch with students and being role models to individuals and communities. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for your input, Adisha. And I just want to remind anybody watching now or watching the replay that your questions are very welcome. So just type them in there, and your comments of any kind. We'll look for them later if you couldn't watch live with us. So yeah, so please go on, Dave. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, well, and I want to really also get back to your original question: is what do you do? It's we all get to this feeling of panic. We're like, I need students now.
Yeah.
And the minute you're in that mindset, you're in trouble. That's. But I'm going to share with you a way to get some students if you're feeling that way in that panic. First of all, you need emails. You need email addresses. I am shocked at how many music studios or instructors don't have emails. They have maybe emails of their current students, but anyone who calls, the more you can capture emails, the better. And I'll share with you a little trick little hack that I would use whenever I needed students is I'd use like if you use like MailChimp or Constant Contact, I would send out an email. Um, there was very kind of soft selling. It wasn't a heavy, selling email. It was maybe like if I was doing one now, might be talking about, kids feeling isolated at home and kind of some of the stuff that we were talking about. And then with a little call to action, click here if you'd like your child to kind of, reconnect, with music. And I would send out 3, and then the people who open those emails, I would send them another email with a new message.
Mhm.
And I'd send out a 3rd email, and I'd keep data of who are these people that are opening my email. And then I'd ultimately call them
Uh-huh.
and say, hey, just wanted to make sure you saw this promotion that we're running. Yeah, I forgot to mention, I always would have a promotion. Sign up today, get $40 off or something.
Mhm.
And I would get on the phone, and I would always at least pick up 2 or 3 students that way.
That's
But in
excellent.
order to do that, you have to have email addresses, you have to have phone numbers.
Yeah, and actually, I want to something that you said, I want to highlight because in my experience, like with the people that I work with, which are musicians of all kinds, and also Alexander teachers, many people don't know what an email provider is other than Gmail. And you mentioned too, MailChimp and Constant Contact, and I'm guessing there are people that have no idea what you were talking about. Could you just enlighten them for a moment?
Right. So we all, are familiar, you all probably have Gmail, or, maybe you're my age and still use Yahoo. And the problem with those, I mean, those are just for communicating, but they don't tell you, it doesn't give you any data or any feedback as to what your user's doing. With an email provider like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, it shows you who opened your email and who clicked on the link, assuming that you provide a link in your email. A person who clicks on your email, who clicks on the link, is clearly at a higher level of interest than a person who just opens it. So more reason to get. And MailChimp's probably the easiest one just to start with. That's what I use. I am going to move off of that into Kajabi, not because there's any issue with MailChimp. I like it, but I know with nature of my business, I need some more bells and whistles. But MailChimp is affordable. It bills you based on how many contacts you have. I think like 0 to 1,000 is like a certain rate. And then once you have over 1,000 emails, your billing goes up. But it allows you to identify who's opening and reading your stuff. And it also ranks your emails. So I'll go into, for example, just this morning, I sent out an email, and I said, only send this to people that consistently open my emails.
So you're sending a mass email, of course, which you can't really do through Gmail or Yahoo either.
I mean, you can, but it's a blast.
Right.
You're blasting it out, and you're not, like, for example, people that have dropped out of your studio, you want to be careful with how often you email them and what that message is. Right. So these different email platforms allow you to segment your audiences. If you're in my email list, you might only get an email from me like once a month. Other people might be getting 2 emails or 3 a week from me. It's because your behavior is putting you into different segments.
Right. I think
And
this is so absolutely essential for anybody who wants to have an online business. It's almost not even possible to have a business these days when you don't have an email list like this. I mean, otherwise you'd be on the phone all the time and you couldn't do any teaching. So thank you for telling people about the email list.
well, one thing I want to say about emails, a lot of people said to me, but Dave, that, like, I don't want to be annoying. And it's like, well, then don't write annoying emails.
Right.
Okay. Annoying emails are emails that are selling all the time. Write, one of my most successful emails, the subject was, I dare you to read this and not
That's
and
good.
not cry at the end.
Uh-huh.
And it was a story, a real story about a girl that had selective mutism in my school and never spoke out of the house. And she got up and she sang in front of the whole school. That was her first time speaking in public.
Oh,
And
wow.
her parents had no idea she was going to do it. I had no idea.
That's amazing.
And I looked over at her parents at the moment, and you could see their eyes welling up. And that was the email.
Imagine. Uh-huh.
And then I had a PS, like, this is one more reason why here at our school, we believe in this, sign up for lessons today.
Right.
And it wasn't, there was a little soft sell at the end, but people who receive emails like that go, I enjoy getting emails from Jennifer. She's not always selling to me. She's not always telling me sign up for lessons, sign up for lessons.
Right.
She's maybe sending me an email about the top 5 family events to do in Cincinnati this weekend.
You're giving value to the
Right.
people who are reading always, and also you're entertaining them as well at the same time. So, and after all, if you have a music studio, you kind of have to do some marketing. It's funny because it's so logical and obvious, and yet there is this, I think, sense in the artistic world as a whole, not just musicians, I think, that selling is bad or dirty. But if you think of it more as, I'm giving these people an opportunity to learn something of great value for them for the rest of their lives. So if you realize that you're giving service through giving them a chance to have music lessons, or I think that idea has helped me a lot, because of course, in my studio, I need to be selling my coaching programs and so forth. But thinking of it as service has been really helpful for me.
Well, when you're selling something that changes people's lives because it's changed your life, you're not selling
Right.
anymore. You're helping them.
Yeah.
And I took it upon myself to tell everybody I met what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a lot of business. I picked up a customer the other day at the grocery store because he said to me, it's like, Dave, you're like, hey, you're in music, aren't you? Like, how's your business doing? And I started telling him about one of my programs, and I like I got a customer right there in the grocery store.
That's
And
great.
I wasn't afraid to sell to him because I knew that he's got a daughter stuck at home, bored to tears.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I
Yeah.
explained it to him, and I said, hey, give me your email. I'd love to send you some information about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just come right out. And I mean, it's
And
different
it's
if
so
we're
good for the family, so good
right.
for the daughter, it's good for you. It's win-win-win all around.
Right. It's not like we're selling like cardboard boxes and that's our product. How can you get people passionate about that? It's tough.
Right.
I think one of the biggest problems that music instructors have is that our product is so desirable that we don't focus on how to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if our product wasn't, if the desirability in our product wasn't obvious, we would have no choice but to be masterful marketers.
Good point. Right.
Everyone loves music.
It's like, if I wanted to sell this, like, I'd have to make up a good story to sell this. Right.
Well, look at like Pilates, for example. When Pilates came out, it's like, well, what's that? What's Pilates? So these people had to persuade people that Pilates was going to be good for their health. And it was going to, same with like yoga. I mean, yoga is such a part of our culture now, but I think back to like the 70s and 80s, no one would do yoga.
Nobody had ever heard of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Look at Jane Fonda, getting a little off track here, but when she came out with that fitness video in the 80s, I can't remember what it was called, but the whole idea of working out was, foreign. Even Richard Simmons, it's the same type of deal. And, and this is so hard for us to grasp. My dad said to me that when he was a kid, if he saw somebody running, he would assume he was some sort of professional athlete, that like you wouldn't do it for health. So through marketing, we're living longer and healthier lives. People have successfully persuaded us that eating well and exercise will somehow benefit us. And at a certain point in time, we didn't believe that, or we didn't care about it.
Right.
And
That's
now we care
such
about
a
it.
good point, is because I think people also tend to think that, well, I'm selling violin lessons or piano lessons. Like, that's not what we're selling. We're selling
Right.
transformation in people's
Right.
lives and quality of life. And like you talked about, community and, help for children who are isolated. These are really important things that we're teaching people. And even if it's a kid that is never going to become a professional, you have deeply improved the quality of their life as a kid. And if we can convey that message to the parents, we're not just peddling piano lessons or whatever. I think that's a key, a big key.
And I think what's so hard for us is that we are the exception, us music people. We are the ones who went to violin lessons. In my case, it was cello lessons. And I said, I love this. And I took to it and I started practicing. And we are out of touch with the normal person. We are not normal people in that we're musicians. Most people don't play music.
Right.
And they don't play at the level that we play.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, have you ever like been playing, your instrument, and you look, and people, when they're done, they're like, they are so touched by what you did. And they're so thankful that you put music in front of them. But for you, if you want music, you just reach over and grab a violin and there it is. For most people, music, it's not accessible to them. They had to turn something on, and they're on the outside looking in at it. But as a musician, you're on the inside. You're the creator and the producer of music. And it's so hard. It's so easy for us to forget the magic of it. And it's so easy for us to forget that people just desire it so much, and people admire musicians so much. And our marketing suffers because of that, because we're out of touch with how people look at music and how they look at musicians. And we just assume, yeah, everybody wants to play.
Yeah, really, really, really good point. Good to remember that. Yeah, we're in our little musician world bubble, and we do forget what it's like on the outside sometimes.
Well, how long have you been playing violin?
Forever.
Right. So you don't know life without, imagine what your life would be like now if you couldn't play music at all.
No, I can't even imagine it.
Right. Right. It's such a part of who you are. And so we're marketing to people, who don't know what that's like.
Right. I do have one more question that I wanted to make sure we got a chance to answer before we wrap up. This is from Anita again. She says, how would we set up a contract, if that is the right term? How would we set up a contract for parents and pupils to have more of a sense of commitment rather than to drop out after just a few lessons?
Well, my question to Anita would be, what would the contract, I'm not clear what the purpose of the contract is. The contract is a statement of commitment.
I don't know exactly what she means either, but I could see sometimes having a student write out a self-contract like that. Or maybe she's suggesting like a 6-month contract or of lessons. I'm not sure exactly what she means.
Well, I think that could scare people off. That would be like going on a first date with someone and say, look, can we just at least commit to 6 months of dating? That's, but really in the real world of dating, you say, look, if for any reason you want this relationship to discontinue, just let me know before our next date. And it just
Good
kind
analogy.
of, right. And I really do I talk a lot about, dating and courtship. We can learn a lot from that experience in terms of how to treat our customers. In marriage, one of the biggest mistakes people make is they take their partner for granted. They're like, they're married to me now. Like, oh, he used to wine. He used to wine and dine me when we were dating. But no, you need to wine and dine your customers just as much
Mhm.
as you did when they first, you were attentive to them when they were inquiring, and you need to almost treat them better once they're your customer. And to get back to Anita's question, is I would just focus on creating an experience, not just in the lesson. The lesson is only a part of what you're about. Um, you could even argue that's maybe even less than 50% of what you're about. The way you treat your customers, the way you talk to them, the how you exceed their expectations beyond the lesson
Mhm.
is what's going to keep them coming back. And I think we get so caught up in the quality of the lesson, and that's important.
Mhm.
It's sort of like the chef who only thinks about the quality of his cooking. But it's like, no, what's the ambiance of your restaurant? What's your wait staff like? How are they talking to people?
Yeah.
And what's the music playing in the back? It's all these little things that add up. And the food is certainly a part of it. The lesson's a part of it, but by no means, people aren't sticking with you just because you offer good lessons. There are other factors at play.
Absolutely. Oh, I think that's so to the point.
Right.
So important to remember, because I think we do get hung up a lot on the technical details of the lesson plan, or what piece my student is going to be learning, and what technique, all these. It's kind of myopic, actually, when we look at lessons that way, rather than like what we've been talking about, the transformational experience. And I love how you're another great analogy. I love your analogies with the food. It's like, if
Right.
you're going to order food, you want top quality food, but you don't want to eat it out in the alley. It's like
Right.
next to the dumpsters, right?
Well, it's like Starbucks. Is their coffee really that good? I mean, some people say yes. Some people say Dunkin' Donuts they prefer, but it's the Starbucks experience. They're being transformed, feeling like you're in some cafe in Italy. Maybe you've never been to Italy, so this is the closest you're going to get. But to go back to Anita's question, this is something that I hear come up a lot where people get bogged down in policies and contracts. The more you can the more minimal you can make a contract or a policy, the better. And I hear a lot in these Facebook groups, people getting bogged down in their policies, and just make it so simple. Again, to go back to dating, how would you feel if you went on a first date with someone and they said, I just want to go over a few of my policies with you? Okay.
No, no smoking.
Right, right.
Got to wear a mask.
And so here's how I always handled my policies is I had them printed up and I would bold the ones that were like a sticking point. And before I go on my first date or before the first lesson, I'd say to my mom, hey, just really quick, I want you to look at this. Tuition's due in the first of the month. It's auto pay. I'd rattle it off really quickly. I could do it in about 15 to 20 seconds. And that was the end of it.
I love
And yeah, and just kind of, but I think a lot of people labor over their policies and their contracts, and just focus on the quality of the relationship.
Yeah, that's great. And I think a lot of people actually are afraid to have policies, and that's part of why they are thinking about it all the time. It's like,
Interesting.
yeah, I think it's really important for especially new teachers who haven't done it before to just get to sit with yourself for a little bit and ask yourself, well, what do you really care about most? And maybe those top few points are the things that are non-negotiables. I love how you just rattled off. No, you pay by the month and it's auto pay, and there's like no question about it.
Right.
This is the way it is. Because if you're not clear about your policies, if you don't have a contract, then it's easy for people to just find other ways, and people can feel taken advantage of.
And your customers will respect you a
Yes.
month or two later when they say, oh, this thing happened, can we get a refund for that? Actually, our policy is this, so no, I can't give you a refund. And I understand that it's frustrating and I feel your pain, but this policy allows us to run our business with the efficiency that we have, so we can focus on providing your child with the service that that we feel that they deserve.
Can the listeners quote you on that?
Yes.
That was really good.
Shuts them down real quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look, we all test boundaries in our relationships. We all do things to go, what happens if I
Right.
push Jennifer a little bit?
Yeah,
If she doesn't call me out on it, I can push a little bit more next time.
that's right. If I
I
don't show up for my lesson and she doesn't say anything and lets me reschedule for whenever I want, then you bet it's going to happen again the next time.
Right. And they'll respect you more. Like, I'm sorry you didn't show up. You do have to pay for that lesson.
That's why prepaying is really good, especially for online work. I've found that that's
right.
really helpful to have something that's automated. It's also less personal. It's easier to do things in an automated way when you have online teaching going on. Very
Yes.
helpful.
Yes.
Well, Dave, I think maybe it's time to wrap up. This has flown by. I didn't know how long we'd go, but thank you so much for your wisdom and sharing your advice here. How can people get in touch with you if they wanted to ask you follow-up questions, or if they have kids who want to study with you? Where should they go?
Well, I'd love it if you could hop on over to my Facebook group, Music Lessons and Marketing. Lots of great conversations there regarding really the emphasis is more on business growth. I also have a podcast called Music Lessons and Marketing that really a lot of what we talked about today is also covered in there. And you can visit me on my website at davesimonsmusic.com.
Fantastic. Do you have any last little bits of wisdom you wanted to share, or something you wanted to get in there? If anything else on your mind?
Yeah, I want to quote Dr. Fauci. He said recently, help is on the way, and it really is on the way. And I have a feeling that summer 2021, there's no reason why that can't be your most profitable summer ever. Your current customers and the ones that have dropped out are so stir crazy right now. They are going to explode with joy this summer. And now is the time to begin thinking about and planning for late spring and summer 2021. If you can just hold tight, don't let your sink ship, just keep it afloat. You'll be able to hop back into your ship, and I'm confident that that brighter and greater days are soon to come.
Oh, thank you so much for finishing up with that. That is really encouraging and hope inspiring. I am with you on that. So thank you again. And I am looking forward to our talk on your podcast.
Yes, coming soon.
All right. Take care. Stay
right.
safe, and all the best to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And thanks to to everyone who watched today.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for being here. And you know how to find Dave, and you can always send additional questions if you're watching the replay, and we will get back to you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.